we truly could be at a moment where it is possible to pick digital cotton, digital intellectual cotton that is empty and is pushed by individuals who only profit by selling you dreams that won't come true for you or future generations. So, in order to dispel that, we at A Seat at the Table bring individuals that you may not have had the opportunity. When you think about the Black Man Voter Project, you think about those who are on the forefront of leading, and yet you don't see them. Oftentimes, we don't ask, where is Mondale? Where is Mondale Robinson? We've had to ask a lot of people, where are you? Or where isn't he when he doesn't show up to do a press conference or talks in rants? And they never ask, where is Mondale? They never ask, where is the Black man who's talking for just the Black man? Not a famous Black man, not a Black man that you already know. Because we need to accept the fact that many white people just don't know a real Black man. Hey, Mondale Robinson, welcome to A Seat at the Table.
Munson, I'm at home. It might be a seat at the table, but whenever you're on the other side of this camera, I'm at virtually home, brother. So thanks for having me, and it's good to be with the family.
Yeah, now we have to keep a conversation with our community. I said, well, we all talk like this is the end. Like once they announce this is the end. I say, some of y'all just getting woke. Some of y'all still aren't woke. And some of you still aren't certain you want to be Black. And all of those things are a crime against our culture. Our culture is what we live in. Our culture is what our ancestors gave us, not what people have robbed and set the tone and told us that our culture is just hip hop. So that would alienate everything else for those who believe that their grandparents' legacy, their HBCUs, that all of our forefathers fought so that we have a culture of community. That's what we have, a culture of community. And we also need a culture of transparency. Man. These backroom deals where they bring only certain people in so we can't see the paperwork and we don't know what it is, but you negotiating for all of us has to end.
Brother, let me tell you something. I'm so glad you started the conversation like that. And also, it's important that we remember that while hip hop isn't our culture, it's of our culture, mainly because at its core, when it was first founded, it was about protest and everything Black people do to stand up, erect, to announce that we are here to be alive. The rhythm of life is all about protest. Our vote is protest. Our going to work and not being lazy or whatever stereotype they put on us this year. Is a protest. So getting back to that form of hip hop, it is a part of our culture, but I'm so glad you let people know that we are more than just entertainers and here to entertain folk. This election cycle showed us that for sure. And I'm glad you also reminded people that just electing someone is not revolutionary. Actually, unelecting them when they don't do what they say they're going to do for you is revolution. And that's what Black people have failed a lot of the times. We've failed to unelect people that should have been not thrown away in their human sense, but in their political sense. They should have been trashed a long time ago. So I'm super excited about Black people, owning themselves, especially Black men, because, the world has this narrative that we weren't going to show up, that we weren't going to do certain things. And when we did, it was going to be for a certain candidate. And all of that is being proven wrong right now. People will tell the story and there will be a million narratives, and none of them will include not just me and my name, but Black men in general will never be named the savior of this election. But let us not have turned out the way we turned out, and we definitely would have been blamed for any outcome that was negative for our community. So being a Black man with a strong back and knowing that you are too, I'm excited to see what happens for Black men in this election. Not excited where it renders me helpless or like not working for us or on our behalf, because I know as soon as they announce the winner, we have picked our opponent, and now it's time to go to war, fighting for what's best for our community. And like you said, not signing up for these back end deals or taking these this quick money for me and mine and not for the entire community. So I'm excited to be here to talk about this for sure.
So election 2020 2.0, what's next?
Yeah, man. I mean, so first of all, before we can even talk about what's next, we are already, on the forefront. New York Times put out this horrible poll by the Edison Project, who do these things every year. They also were responsible in 2016 for saying that 54% of white women voted for Donald Trump, and then they had to come back and lie and say, oh yeah, you know what, our exit polls was trash. We were way off. These numbers were not correct. So now the new villain is not white women, it's black men. And they're saying that black men in the Midwest, 20%, and all over the country, 20% voted for Trump. And then it's like, well, the numbers don't bear true. It doesn't look real. And so even before we can get to the what's next, we got to figure out how they're going to tell our story, even though we show up and show out in droves, and then people still trying to paint us as this like disillusion with our community, selfish individuals, selfish demographic that don't care about what's happening in our community, even when we show up in droves. And we know that's to be true. Great example of that is what you see in Georgia. More black men had voted early by Monday than had voted in all of 2016 presidential election, yet no one is telling that story. Right? No one is telling that story, even when we see their candidate, the blue candidate, out here being elected, and people ratting and raving about all of these demographics who showed up. And no one is saying that this election is owed to black men, because if we wouldn't have turned out, if we would have stayed home, then we would have known that this election would have went a completely different way, especially when we know that brothers turned out for issues and not candidates, because 64,000 of these brothers didn't even vote for Barack Obama in 2008 or 12, nor did they vote for Stacey Abrams in 2018, nor did they vote for Donald Trump in 2016, or any other federal candidate. Sorry about that. Any other federal candidate in any election between now and 2008. But that's a narrative they will never tell. So that's me just making sure people know that we are where we are because of black men all over this country, and it's specifically because of Georgia. And people need to know that. And when you see a black man, a real black man, you should say, thank you for saving my ass. Excuse my French. But 2.0, where do we go from here? We have two elections. I mean, this election season ain't even over, because in Georgia, we have two runoffs for that will take place in January. So when we're forging our way, when we're naming what we need from this administration, we also have to be talking about how we make sure that the Senate is secure too.
Now, when you think about that, just some names, you think about Emmanuel Clinton, and you think about brothers in jail, and you think about even when you're protecting yourself. What does that put you in the mindset? Because I think what we often omit is our experience when they begin our narrative. I think that's the omission, and I keep cautioning my people. There's something always omitted from our narrative. And what do you feel?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like our narratives are never told, because, brother, people don't think Rolling Out is the #1 magazine in this country, when I do, and I know the importance of this magazine, which is why whenever you ring my phone, I hop up like a spring chicken. Because if we're not telling our story, then it's always going to be told in a way that's problematic and also absent. And by absent, I mean it's going to continue to make us feel dark and invisible. And that's what the history of this country is. That's what the history of American politics has done to black men. So I think what it puts me in the mind of is, while we have gotten rid of a fascist, we still have a fight in front of us, man. And that fight is still a formidable candidate. That fight is white supremacy, and it's not the outright pitchfork white supremacy, but it's the one that tell us, take a little bit and be happy. Take a little bit and go sit down, knowing that black men are dying every day by the hands of agents of the state, by cops. And if you're a certain demographic of black men, 18 to 30, you're more likely to be killed by cops than anything else. And then we know about the over sentencing, and the brothers from my generation that are trying to, fight themselves out of this new scarlet letter, not adultery, but felony, right? So many of us have been convicted that we can't even get a job on that's going to feed our family or help us be proactive citizens. So we have so much to do, man. And I think people that believe that just because you talked about some folk that are newly woke, or just maybe thinking they're woke, but not really woke. That's how I feel about white America a lot, as it pertains to the issues that are plaguing black men. Y'all are stressed out, y'all being white people and people that buy into their media narrative about Donald Trump and all of this, oh my God, voter suppression. We were the first guinea pigs for voter suppression in this country. Don't forget, it was 150 years ago that supposedly the 15th Amendment gave black men the right to vote. when in actuality, it just made us the first testing subject and it never stopped. So we are not afraid of voter suppression. It's a part of our daily diet. So, and it's not just voter suppression that we deal with. It's every aspect of our life that's being suppressed that we fight against. So I'm super excited about getting rid of the fascists, but I also know that I'm tired already for the fights that are coming because of the neoliberals that want me to take a little bit and sit down.
You know, it's amazing that you mentioned liberal. And I think that we need to have that conversation. I was having a conversation with a very powerful, young, famous brother. And I said, well, we need a Black constitution. And he said, no, first we need to deal with their constitution. Well, no, I say we need our constitution. So we have a constitution by which we all understand this constitution is for Black people. See? At the instant. That way, brothers can have a constitution. You can say, well, you know, I don't believe in the Constitution. At least we know where you're at. But I will be transparent if I negotiate for all Black people, see? Because then there's some constitution. I said, well, just call it principles. You know, I would just like some of us to get some, you know, just at the end of the day, just come get some principles. You know, you don't have to explain to the Chinese that it's about the Chinese, but it's always an explanation that we're having to receive and understand on how we're not homogenized on one central issue, us. You know, my, me, and I are the three most destructive words that come out of the mouth of any person speaking for all Black people.
Man, and I think I'm so glad, and I was gonna say that you said something that was so powerful, and this is not to knock any Black person, but what you just said was so intentional. I hope you said we need a constitution. We need to get together and get some principles, right? That was my problem with Ice Cube, along with a lot of other things. He said, this is my contract for Black America. How do you get to write a contract for Black America, brother? Like the hubris of the attitude behind that, that's so chauvinistic in a way that like you've excluded so many people who've spent their entire life doing this work, writing policies, being involved with the political structure, that know how not to be fooled and tricked like you were fooled and tricked, i.e. Donald Trump sending a tweet saying that you supported him, right? So like you all of that wealth that is the blue checked legacy that goes with Ice Cube name got used for Donald Trump's benefit, and we know that does no good for our community. So I'm glad that when you talk about our constitution, you use the word we. Even the Bush family knew that you can use I and be successful too long for people start looking at you sideways. So Ice Cube and all of his arrogance went out there and made a contract by himself and excluded all of these great Black brilliant policy writers to do something for himself, and it was tragic in the end. For sure.
You know, some say it's the good old boys that attack our communities. We've seen this attack ever since we were brought here. What are we going to do to create our own Black wall? You know, they start describing colors, blue wall here, red wall. I said, well, where's the Black wall?
Where's the Black wall?
I need a wall that nobody wants to climb over. I need a wall where everybody comes together, where we all act like bricks and create something that we all can walk over. You know, I'm wondering where the Black wall is. And I think some people are afraid to create a Black wall because they want to walk on a white wall.
I think part and those people are the people in power so too often, right? Like the fact that we need a Black wall, like everybody else got a problem. Like there's nothing wrong with folks saying I'm going to Germantown, or I'm going to Chinatown, or I'm going to Little Italy. What's wrong with going to Black Hood? Like, so that Black wall that you're talking about, it could be a physical wall or proverbial, but we need to really stand together and know that you can't cross the Black community without a real wrath, not this Twitter war that's going to go and they're going to be like, oh, we're going to cancel you on Twitter. There need to be real blowback, repercussions for crossing Black people. I'm talking about our humanity. So I agree with you 100%. We need a wall, be it physical or proverbial, but we definitely need to start standing up in the form of the we's of our ancestors. And I think until we do, we'll continue to get these liberals that are comfortable telling us to take this scrap. And I might invite you to the table.
Well, that brings me to other issues. What are your top 5 that we can actually get our community, or just 2 or 3, we can start there, with that we need to get behind? Because what I am most disappointed in, and it's not them, it's us, it's our, and I share this with most of the people that are coming to the seat at the table. Hold on, y'all. We got it. Look, if it's home ownership, let's all say it.
Let's all say it.
Then we all understand that we, after 2008, got left behind for the last 12 years. lost trillions, and we still don't need to talk about designer handbag that somebody needs to buy for $28,000 or $7,000, or tennis shoes for $15,000. We need to put a pin in that. And what is our top three issues that we can achieve together that and measure our progress? Because the one thing I want us to be able to do is to measure our progress as a Black nation.
Yeah, man. I think I can only talk about the issues that are like I'm an expert on Black men, right? And I know the issues of Black men have to benefit everybody, because if you're better than Black men, then you're better than the entire world, because we make up the lowest rung of all social markers in this country, right? So I'm telling people that we need to be talking about qualified immunity in a real way, as a national thing. We need to bring trades back into school with the entrepreneurial arm. That way we could create economic freedom for Black men that don't just protect us from the racist hiring practice, but also protect us from what happens in the workplace. All of the
So for the principle of that, for me, just so that we dialogue in this, is I call that skill set acquisition.
Absolutely.
If you can't acquire a skill before you get to college, there's a problem.
That's a problem.
There's a problem. And that means I'm gonna be immature and codependent when I walk out of here at 18.
You know what that means?
I will always believe that was intentional.
There you go.
Because it makes our young men and women codependent before
or prepared to be employees for their entire life.
Right. But same thing, codependency, that's it.
Yeah, right.
If I got a skill set,
yep,
and I can do a roof, somebody gonna call me.
Somebody gonna call you.
If I can unplug your toilet, somebody gonna call me.
Absolutely.
And if they call me at midnight, I can charge them triple.
That's right. And now, because of, there's all this technology, there's other trades that we need to think about telling our communities about, right? So we do have the trades like HVAC and plumbing and all of those, and barber. All of those are successful and wonderful trades that have saved many of Black lives and became businesses that families pass along. Absolutely. But then we also got to think about coding as a trade, right? Like, so we're prepared for the 21st century. We also need to think about this healthcare industry has a ton of trades where you don't need to go to school for 4 years. You can get these trades while you're in.
Well, we've been hitting veins a long time and not getting paid for being able to know how to hit a vein and hitting early. So not omitting any of those trades. I don't, coding, clearly technology plays a role. I think we've got to make those numbers available. See, for me, if I can't measure it, I'm even more upset at our Constitution. I'm saying principally, you have to have at least 2 skill sets under your belt.
I mean, that's the road to freedom, right? Like, I mean, what you're talking about is if we were talking about stocks, what you just said, Munson, was diversify yourself. Like, right? You just told a person to diversify your attitudes as it pertains to how you see your life and what you're gonna do to bring forth something for your community and also your family. So absolutely, 2 skill sets sounds like a way to go and also be successful without all of this shenanigans that is white America's economic system. So, and then I think another thing also talking about, were you going to say something before I switch gears?
No, I was just wanting to say, push that same point about codependency. I want our young people to be independent. And the longer you don't have a skill set, the more you will always be dependent. And they will set your fare. Even if you are a salesperson, you're going to get commission. But if you are just a laborer, or you think you're going to be on that cashier line long, they are eliminating all cashiers. I think Black men in healthcare, it was a moment where we considered it, and then we didn't understand why they didn't want us in it. So they made it appear as though it was something that we shouldn't be a Black nurse. We really shouldn't be a Black pharmacist. We really shouldn't be a physical therapist. Now, all the brothers running down the field, that's acceptable. But physical therapists, rehabilitation is all filled with physical therapists, bringing people back. Now, who can move arms and legs better than us?
Right. Right. I love it, brother. And I think the trickery that you talked about of them weaseling us out of it, it also shortened our lifespans because we know white doctors don't treat black patients the way they treat white patients, and it shortens our lifespan. So I'm glad you mentioned that. But I mean, like, and I think everything in this country, as it pertains to you and I and people that look like us, people with of the darker hue, like our brother, like our good brother said, is people darker than blue, right? Like so. I think we absolutely need to be paying attention to the fact that we are a shortage. There's a shortage of us in the healthcare industry, and there's nothing unmanly or whatever the word they choose, feminine about healthcare or saving lives or providing like physical rehabilitation, like you talked about. So I think another thing that we could talk about, along with qualified immunity, we need to end cash bail, man. We are this supposedly a nation. This is why we need a constitution, because we say we are a nation where we don't charge people for being poor, where black men spend so much time in jail before they've been convicted of anything. In a nation that says that you are innocent until proven guilty, then why are we spending so much time in jail before we are convicted? I saw in Selma on our bus tour a couple weeks ago, man, a young brother who couldn't make bail had been sitting in jail for 6 years. He ain't had a court date. He's 6 years in jail because he can't pay a bill. Think about the amount of life lost. You can't get that back. You
Well,
can't
no,
get
I,
that.
I think that the once again, when we have policy, and the policy should be, particularly when you're saying nonviolent. I don't know the brother's history, but if it costs the state twice the bail, you should
Mm,
be free.
mm,
So if the state is willing to charge itself twice to keep you, what it costs to let you go,
wow.
then it's a mathematical equation. You're willing to pay double. Well, that should be the end of it for a taxpayer. Why would a taxpayer want to continue to pay for something that he could have just said, you know what, you cost me 600. I ain't gonna get no more than 600 off you. If you show, cool. But if you don't show, well, we'll catch you another time.
Yeah, and then also, and if you look, man, even if you look at the states who've enacted the localities that have enacted ending cash bail, what we found out is people that don't have cash bail, people who sign themselves out and go home, come back to court at the same rate as folk who just pay cash bail. It's a ridiculous notion, especially when you don't give these people their resources back.
Well, no, it's not a ridiculous notion, and that it's not a notion. It's a systematic oppression that nobody has really paid attention to, and became a funnel of cash every Friday and Saturday night for municipalities and insurance companies and those individuals who make money off cash bail. I mean, it's how can you get part of that spigot? There are places that generally used to have only one or two bail bondsmen in the whole city.
Wow. You
You
know
know,
what? And you're absolutely right. And I've heard somebody give that like defense, like we can't get rid of cash bail because there's black bail bondsmen. And I think to myself, and I'm looking at him like, you are one of those people that Harriet would have left behind. Like that way of thinking is so dangerous to me. It's like this idea that we can't get rid of something that's oppressing so many people. And I'm glad you call it a systematic oppression, because that's what it is. It is not a happenstance that cash bail is super
but it's
successful.
a level of consciousness of who do you want to be. I mean, Isabel Wilkins' caste system has definitely brought out a conversation of caste. Most of us don't want to think about a caste system. They don't even, many of us want to aspire to be an entertainer. So
Mm,
when you sit back and you say, well, that's really what you want to be,
mm,
versus have your own Black Amazon. Is that what we want to have? Which one is bigger in value?
mm.
You think about why don't we have any Black publicly traded companies? Why don't we have enough of those? So I think as we talk about the KPIs for Black men, it's just setting goals that are obvious. I think cash bail is a conversation intelligent brother like you has. When we say it, we've got to be in the pulpit that preachers are anti-cash bail. And we
Mm.
set a number of cities and sites, because what I found, and this is just you and I talking because we haven't caught up, is there still is not any KPIs for my community so that we can say, well, we have 30 cities that for 600 counties that we need to eliminate cash bailout. There's no number. And so we need to be able to say the number, track the number, so that we can really see it versus we talking conceptually. Yes, we need justice for Breonna Taylor. What does that mean?
What does that mean?
What exactly does that mean? They've got the Breonna Taylor law, but does it mean for a nonviolent crime that you cannot draw your gun? If a guy is running away from you, you cannot draw your gun. If
you're off duty,
right,
you can't go intervene and kill 3 people like what just happened in Atlanta, right? This just happened this weekend. Cops, supposedly 2 off-duty cops, go get involved in something that should have been left to the authorities, and because their day job is something different. I mean, if you think about what I do or what you do, brother, and when I'm off the clock, I'm off the clock. I can't take work with me everywhere I go. And the ability, just because you have that gun on your hip to go get involved with anything at any time, is a dangerous notion.
Yeah, no, so circumstances just like you described, those often, but I want some numbers because I'm really become saddened that we don't have a Black agenda that is so clear and critically clear for a community. You know, when you think about those arrangements, it's still concepts. And I really don't want to go through 4 more years of concepts and we don't know what to ask. The fact that advertising, Blacks get less than 1% of all federal, we ain't even talking about business. There shouldn't be a Fortune 500 company that is able to do business with any city or state that we have a mayor or city council people and not involve Black businesses. And we need to end the fear of having Black opportunity and compliance, business compliance.
Absolutely. I think you know, we know the first attempt at that failed because white women became the major benefactors of affirmative action. So we definitely need to bring it back, and we need to be explicit. Whenever this country tries to do anything and they're not explicit about us, we end up getting the short end of the stick. So I'm 100% with you on that.
And we don't want closet Karen.
Absolutely, we don't.
Closet Karen. See, I think they see Karen, but we need to talk about closet Karen. Because she only comes out when we're not in the room to hurt us. So when she's in the voter booth, we don't call her out for 4 years.
Wow.
And she was voting to hurt us. She was voting to make sure that if you had gone to law school, graduated from Harvard, graduated from Howard, graduated from John Marshall, and you were Black, and you were a judge, and you were dedicated, these last 4 years, you didn't have an opportunity.
At all, not in the federal government.
That you weren't even consideration set.
You couldn't even sit at a Justice Department, Civil Rights Department desk, right? They did away with it.
No, and then they're wondering why you have a justice for Breonna Taylor. They don't have an interest. So we talk about closet Karen, and we let her sit comfortably in meetings, silent, not recognizing that by not calling out her silence, and then all of a sudden she shows up and we say, oh, she did it 55% of the time. When she was doing the same thing at 55% of the time when she was in the personnel department too.
Yep.
And she voted against no application moving any further. So wow. We've got to talk about her because we are the men. You know, the bird watcher, it wasn't a Hispanic sister that said she was going to call the police. See, we can't have these instant forgetters. You know, for me, that's a problem with our community. We have to remind them again and create a whole conversation about who she is to the community. Because Black men showed up at the polls and she didn't.
We did.
So
we did.
No benefits.
Didn't we though?
No benefits.
I tell people all the time, like this is you know, Black Male Voters Project doesn't exist only to turn out Black men. It's also we need to have a negotiating arm. And that's why our entities are supported in that sense that we are not just here to give you Black men vote or encourage Black men to give you their vote without you doing something for them. So anybody that's elected because of the benefit the black man vote, you're gonna have to sit down at the table with brothers, and not those with the nice neckties that you like to talk to with no hair on their face. You got to sit down with the nappy head brothers with the beard like me. You got to have a real conversation. You're gonna get cursed out a lot. And Muncie gonna be at the table. It look like. I'm being honest. So I was in a conversation. I'm gonna give you an example, brother. A brother tried to set me up, and I'm gonna talk about this later in the year when I got some stuff I'm working on. But I'm gonna just I'm gonna prime it right now. Brother worked for the DNC. The DNC wouldn't fund this city councilman in Philadelphia. He's a Democrat, but he's doing work with Republicans. Him and a couple guys. This city council guy, and then this other cat who's supposedly organizing, but he's doing work on Trump's behalf. So the Democratic Party wouldn't fund him, but this Democratic operative brought this guy to me. I'm like, oh yeah, go ahead and fund this guy. These two guys, give them money. First of all, I'm thinking, why in the hell is the DNC coming to me asking me for money? Joe Biden has raised more money than any candidate ever. First of all. Second of all, if you care so much about them, why you're not funding them? Why are you trying to give them to me? So I started doing some digging. I called my people in Philadelphia because I got, we know how to travel. You know what I'm saying? Right. That green book ain't just died because we can sit anywhere. Right. So I called my people. My people like, yo, them people, the DNC already told them no on funding because they know they're dealing with Republicans. So I'm thinking to myself, the DNC sent this guy to have me to try to fund them so they can tell my donors, oh yeah, he funded people that work with Trump. That's how shiesty they are, bro. I'm calling names. It's just a little early in the season, but it's coming. Like I got all of them with what our sisters call the receipts. I got so much stuff you wouldn't believe how they play dirty about black men and treat us all the time while we're doing their dirt. All I have to say to that is this is the last election cycle where you can talk to black men in this trickery way, this very conditioned way where you come see us 2 and 3 months before elections and you think you're gonna get something from us. So they need to just be on the. I told people as soon as this election is behind us, we get to tell the truth, all the truth about who they are and how they show up in the world. And while they're not fascists, you don't have to be racist to be fascist.
Well, I think there's a pause. When you think about the pause for our community, we've got to pause and Mondale really set an agenda, one that is measurable, one that is visible. Because I think it's always about mine, me, and I.
Absolutely.
And that truly doesn't say anything about community standards and community culture.
Yeah.
And I'm more concerned that, oh, this person gets here and then y'all want the party. And you forget the principle.
I think what happens.
Look at all them receipts and say, well, where are all this money that was raised?
Man.
And where did it go?
Man.
And who got it? And why did they get it? And why didn't some of us get it? Not why didn't I get it? Because I don't want to be the only media brand. See, because Roll Down's a brand.
Right.
We launch our TV station on next Tuesday. But
congratulations, brother.
My point is we're a brand. But I don't want them to just give me the money.
Right.
Don't do me like that. Give it to all the brothers and sisters.
Yeah. I never wanted to be there.
More than 2%.
Yeah. Malcolm X told us a long time ago, be wary of that brother who's happy to be the only Negro in the room, the only Negro in his community, right? Be wary of him. So I appreciate that. And I think you're absolutely right. But you know what? I also think it's on you and I right now, right? We need to make it official. We need to sit down and have a conversation where we talk about this is a pause. Let's put pause on politics after this election for a short period and dive out or dig out what it means to be black and political.
Black Congress, black Constitution, black principles, whatever it takes so that we can have a cohesive, it ain't brothers against sisters.
Right.
Right. For real?
Right.
That's where you want to be. You want history to write that you decided for a platinum, which I'm like, you picked a musical award title
or necklace
or necklace to describe a plan for black people. So we need trinkets and little medallions.
Right. Yep.
As a plan for us, and then we're gonna stand with you.
On a 2-page document.
With no economists. No
You're right, brother.
NAACP Legal Defense Fund.
None of it.
But with Legal Defense Fund, got at least nothing but lawyers over there.
Right.
So if you need a free lawyer,
Especially for something about a Black Constitution, I bet you they would have been extremely excited to be a part of that advancement project. SPLC, tons of organizations would have been jumped on the idea of being a part of a Black Congress.
no, train legal minds.
Training legal minds.
Economic scholars
Mm-hmm.
who are already in think tanks.
Right. Right. But I mean, like in that action, brother, in his actions, we don't got to call his name. In his actions, we see a lot of self grandizing. So I think you're right. We need to sit down and we need to be and that we need to include both men, women, and also non-gender conforming Black people. So
It has to be, because that's always, no, everybody's in the room.
Everybody's in the room.
He was all in the room.
Yeah.
We can all ride the bus together.
Yeah.
And be okay with it.
And what we need to start to think about is like how we put those carve outs to the side and let people know that we're not minimizing anybody, but we're talking about the Black community. So this Constitution, the way it moves faster, people think about, oh, it's impossible, it's going to be too hard to do. Well, that's because you're thinking about everybody's carve outs. We're talking about what's going to move all of us uniformly. And that's what goes in the Constitution. Everything else lives off of that or grows off of that. But what needs to be in the Constitution for our people needs to be something that's going to lift all of us.
Yes. And see, that's the thing. When we are not present and it's only you or I, that's a problem.
Indeed it is.
Here we go. 2 Senate seats up. The brothers that did not show up. What can we do? What should we demand? What are we at rolling out? Because obviously I'm reaching out. They're going to hear me. Mm-hmm. So I want to know what we can do for those brothers that did not. A brother in Clayco, a brother in Savannah that wasn't and is registered. How do we get that database? How do we reach that database?
Yeah. So I mean, we have this conversation before, brother. I have that access. So whenever we want to sit down and talk about it, we could definitely.
So that's on the agenda.
Indeed, but beyond that, let's start by first thing. I mean, I feel like what you shouldn't do is I appreciate you saying what can you do. That's a question the party needs to be asking you, right? Like Mr. Steve.
Well, we've had one opportunity. So when people ask, and I'm just beginning the conversation.
Okay.
They send you a piece of paper and there's no talker. So the talker ain't even got in the conversation.
Gotcha.
So and I don't want to have a conversation by myself, see, because at the end of the day, which is why I'm saying, it's like but I want to be transparent with people so that they say, well, that's how it works. Because if we don't have the conversation, then I'm not going to be able to have a deeper conversation, because then they say, well, what you going to do? And I don't want to talk to, I'm like, why y'all hitting me with Facebook? I voted 2 weeks ago.
Right.
I already voted. You just wasting all this money.
Bad targeting, brother. It's bad targeting.
On me, though. On me. I didn't need anything.
Yeah.
I was already going to vote.
But that's all they know. Like that's the model. That's the problem. Like we forget that voting is a habit that's formed by resources spent on it. So they spend resources on the same voter, every election cycle, and wonder why those voters always turn out. It's because you forgot to knock on my door ever. You've never knocked on these brothers' doors ever to tell them why they should vote for your candidate, right? So what we need to do is we need to make sure that we're centering brothers and not in a selfish way, but in a way that people aren't made to feel invisible in their issues, because we know Black men, like I said, make up the lowest rung of all society markers in this country. So we need to be saying how this election, how these 2 Senate seats are going to affect that quality of life, and what it means to you to have these 2 Senate seats, or even one of those Senate seats on your behalf, or speaking on your behalf about your problems. And I think until we do that in a way that is not 5 days before an election, so don't come see the brothers on January the 1st. You need to go see the brothers. You need to see the brothers probably next week and begin the conversation about what's important to you. What do you need to see from these 2 Senate races? What these candidates need to be saying about your issues so as to make you show up to this poll on January the 5th. But you can't do that in a week. They need to start listening immediately.
All right. So we got 5 more minutes, because I don't want to take up all your time. We've got the community hopefully thinking to understand what it is Black Men's Voter Project. What's the goal for this next cycle? Because
Yeah. So we are blessed to be an evergreen organization with a goal that never changes. Like, right, our goal is to make Black men more civically engaged, knowing that once we are more civically engaged, voting becomes a byproduct of that new mentality. So we use two types of science. First one is we use the lessons learned from Maslow hierarchy needs to change, to recognize first that people suffering from the lack of basic needs being met can't think about things that are self-actualization. And because of that, we use behavior psychology to change the psyche of how Black men see electoral politics in this country. And we get to do that all the time, every day, all year, whether it's a federal election or no election. We're still engaging brothers on the same way.
So we're talking basically our ecosystem, Black brothers ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, see, I believe that for sure, because I think the ecosystem, Black men in particular in this conversation, and Black community, our ecosystem is something that we all need to be talking about. It's, you think about health disparities, as part of your ecosystem. You think about education, part of the ecosystem. You think about lack of hiring in Silicon Valley. And all of us need to have it on the ecosystem. And we need to go back and have a meeting after this, look at the profits of some of these individuals who have had and run companies and made money during the election, and then literally see, particularly if it's social media, exactly what we want them to do for our community, so we can make a demand there too, because we are part of your ecosystem, and we should eat, whether we're receipt shareholders or we're picking digital cotton, one or the other.
Brother, that digital cotton situation is powerful. And I'm telling you right now, it means something. People shouldn't think that's just, hyperbole. That is a factual situation that we find ourselves in. So we definitely need to be doing some deep data diving on the who's of this election cycle, because it was a lot of money spent. A lot of money spent. And you ain't got to sell your soul to figure out what's in it for you. And I mean, by you, I'm talking about the collective us.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you, brother. Let's make sure we're together next week. Safe travel.
Thank you.
All of you out there. Mondale Robinson is definitely a true leader in our community. He sacrificed a lot to focus on those who aren't focused on, and that includes myself, because when I walk down the street, they don't say what I own or what my mom believes. They just say, there goes a Black man. And what we want to say is, we want to make sure that they respect that Black man. At the end of the day, respect this Black community and respect humanity. So for all of us, remember the Black Man Voting Project, and my brother Mondale Robinson, thank you so much for coming on, a seat at the table. You do not have to be in the streets, everybody, but you must be in the struggle. I'm Munson